chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from 14 different alien civilizations. Yoonyo Kim stood in the center of it all, feeling very small. Above him, the ceiling stretched so high it seemed to touch the stars themselves. Around him, creatures of every shape and size watched from their elevated platforms. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few seemed to be made of pure energy. But all of them were looking at him with the same expression: judgment. Junho had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years now. He thought he understood how the Galactic Consular Senate worked. He thought he knew what to expect from this meeting. He was wrong. The voice that spoke came from everywhere at once. It belonged to Commanding Voice Thelm, the representative from the Valorian Empire. The Valorians were tall, powerful beings who had ruled their corner of space for over 10,000 years. When Thelm spoke, others listened. "The Senate has reached a decision regarding humanity," Thelm announced. "Your species has been in our galaxy for barely 15 years. In that time, you have built more warships than civilizations twice your age. You expand your military with alarming speed. You test weapons that concern us. The Senate has decided this cannot continue." Junho felt his stomach tighten. This was worse than he feared. "Therefore," Thelm continued, "humanity will decommission 90% of its military fleet within 6 standard cycles. You will submit to regular inspections. You will cease all advanced weapons research. If you refuse, Earth and its colonies will face severe economic sanctions. You will be isolated from galactic trade. Your species will face these consequences alone." 12 of the 14 Senate members signaled their agreement. Only 2 abstained. The decision was final. Junho wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that humans built ships because they were scared, not aggressive. They were new to the galaxy, and everything here was bigger, older, and more powerful than them. They built defenses because they didn't know what threats existed out here. But he said none of this. Instead, he bowed his head slightly. "I will deliver your message to Earth's leadership," he said quietly. The trip back to Earth took 3 days. Junyo spent most of it staring out the window at the stars, thinking about what this meant. The Senate saw humanity as dangerous children who needed to be controlled. They didn't understand humans at all. When he arrived at the United Nations Space Command headquarters in Geneva, he found the entire leadership waiting for him. Admiral Hannah Park stood near the window, her arms crossed. She had commanded Earth's defense forces for 10 years and had built most of the fleet the Senate now wanted destroyed. Director Doyen Choi sat in the corner, his face unreadable. He ran Earth's intelligence services and always seemed to know things before everyone else. President Ji-young Nam sat at the head of the table, looking tired. "Tell us everything," the president said. Junho explained the Senate's demands. As he spoke, he watched the reactions. Hannah's jaw tightened. Doyen's eyes narrowed. The president just nodded slowly. "Can we fight this?" someone asked. "No," Hannah said bluntly. "If we refuse and they unite against us, we lose. The Valorian Empire alone has 3 times our fleet size. If all 14 civilizations combined forces, we wouldn't last a month. So we surrender?" Another voice challenged. "We comply," President Nam said carefully. "But compliance doesn't mean surrender." Doyen stood up and walked to the center of the room. He activated a holographic display that showed Earth's current military strength. Ships, stations, and defensive platforms appeared in glowing blue light. "The Senate thinks they understand us," Doyen said. "They look at our military and see only weapons. They see danger. But they're looking at the wrong thing. Our strength isn't in these ships. Then where is it?" someone asked. Doyen smiled slightly. "In the fact that 50 years ago we couldn't leave our own planet. Now we have colonies on 4 worlds and stations on 20 more. We went from chemical rockets to quantum drives in less than a century. The Senate species took thousands of years to reach that level. We did it in 3 generations. They see our ships and think we're warlike," Hannah added, understanding where Doyen was going. "They don't see that we built those ships with technology we invented ourselves. Technology that in some areas already exceeds theirs." President Nam leaned forward. "So what are you suggesting?" "We give them what they want," Doyen said. "We decommission 90% of our fleet. We let their inspectors watch us dismantle our warships. We appear to comply completely, and then?" Junyo asked. "Then we show them what humanity really is," Doyen replied. "Not through weapons. Through everything else." Over the next few hours, they developed the plan. It was risky. It was bold. It might make things worse instead of better. But it was the only option that didn't end with humanity either starting a war they couldn't win or accepting permanent second-class status in the galaxy. Captain Minho Lee was brought into the planning. He commanded the EDS Resilience, Earth's newest and most advanced ship. "You want me to do what with my ship?" he asked when they explained. "Trust us," Hana told him. "In 6 cycles, you're going to change everything." News of the Senate's demands spread across Earth and its colonies within hours. People were angry, scared, and confused. Some called for defiance. Others called for peace at any cost. Protests filled the streets of major cities. The news channels ran constant debates, but in secret facilities across human space, something else was happening. Engineer Subin Kang received classified orders at the Quantum Research Division. Commander Hyan Yu got new directives at Mars Defense Installation. Specialist Yoon Ji-han was pulled into a project she couldn't discuss with anyone. Captain Taewon Shin's deep space reconnaissance mission suddenly had new objectives. Junho Kim returned to the Senate station to formally acknowledge Earth's compliance. Thelm seemed satisfied. "Your species has made a wise choice," the Valorian said. "In time, you will understand we do this for your own good. Young civilizations often mistake aggression for strength. We will teach you better." Junho bowed politely. Inside, he was counting down. 6 cycles. That was all the time they had to prepare. 6 cycles to build something that would make the Senate reconsider everything they thought they knew about humanity. As he left the Senate chamber, he allowed himself a small smile. The Senate wanted humanity disarmed. They were going to get their wish, but they were about to learn that taking away someone's weapons doesn't make them helpless. It just makes them creative. Back on Earth, President Nam addressed the world. "We will comply with the Senate's demands," she announced. "We will show them that humanity knows how to follow the rules. But we will also show them something else. We will show them who we really are." The countdown began. 6 cycles until everything changed. 3 cycles had passed since the Senate's ultimatum. Across human space, the decommissioning had begun. News feeds throughout the galaxy showed the same images: massive human warships being dismantled in orbital shipyards. Destroyers, carriers, and battlecruisers that had taken years to build were being torn apart piece by piece. The Senate observers watched it all with satisfaction. Commanding Voice Thelm stood in the observation deck of Earth's largest shipyard, watching workers cut into the hull of a heavy cruiser. Beside him, his assistant recorded everything for the Senate's records. "The humans are being very cooperative," Thelm noted. "Perhaps we misjudged their stubbornness." What Thelm didn't see was the smile on the face of the human shipyard director standing behind him. What the cameras didn't record was where some of those ship components were actually going. Captain Minho Lee walked through the corridors of the EDS Resilience. To any observer, his ship appeared to be in the final stages of decommissioning. The weapon systems had been removed. The armor plating was being stripped away. The crew had been reduced to a skeleton staff. But Minho knew the truth. His ship wasn't being destroyed. It was being transformed. In a sealed section of the vessel, Engineer Subin Kang worked with her team on systems that weren't in any official documentation. "How much longer?" Minho asked her. 2 more cycles," Subin replied without looking up from her work. "The quantum drive modifications are delicate. If we rush this, it won't work, and it has to work. The Senate observers haven't noticed. They're looking for weapons. They think that's what makes a ship dangerous." Subin allowed herself a brief smile. "They have no idea what we're really building." Across the solar system on Luna Base, Director Doyen Choi descended 3 kilometers beneath the surface. The facility here didn't officially exist. The Senate inspectors had never asked about it, and no one had volunteered the information. Inside, hundreds of people worked around the clock on Project Witness. Doyen walked past massive servers, quantum computers, and holographic projection systems. "Status report," he said to the lead technician. "We're ready, sir. Everything we need to show them is compiled and prepared. The presentation will last approximately 3 hours. The Senate won't be able to look away. They'll try to stop it," Doyen warned. "Not if we time it correctly. By the time they realize what's happening, it'll be too late. The entire galaxy will have seen it." On Mars, Commander Hyan Yu coordinated with deep space reconnaissance. Captain Taewon Shin's ship had just returned from another mapping mission. "Did you get everything?" Hyun asked. "Every Senate military installation within 50 light-years," Taewon confirmed. "Their patrol routes, their response times, their communication protocols. Everything you asked for. We're not planning to attack them," Hyun clarified. You understand that, right? I know. But knowing where they are means they can't surprise us. It means we can prove we're aware of everything happening around us. That's the point, isn't it? To show them we're not naive. Back on Earth, Admiral Hannah Park found the process of dismantling her fleet almost physically painful. She had commanded most of these ships personally. She knew every crew, every captain, every system. Watching them be torn apart felt like losing pieces of herself. President Ji-young Nam found her standing alone in her office late one night, staring at a display showing the decommissioning progress. 87% complete, the president noted. Right on schedule. I keep telling myself it's necessary, Hannah said quietly. That this is all part of the plan. But it still hurts. It should hurt, Nam replied. If it didn't hurt, we wouldn't be human. But remember what we're doing. We're not surrendering. We're setting a trap. A trap implies someone's going to get caught. Not caught, surprised. There's a difference. The president pulled up another display. This one showing projects the Senate knew nothing about. While they watch us take apart our military, we've built more infrastructure in 3 cycles than we did in the previous 3 years. Construction platforms, defensive satellites, research stations. None of it looks like weapons, so they don't care. But it's all part of our actual defense network. Specialist Yoon-ji Han had spent the 3 cycles analyzing every piece of Senate psychology data available. Her report was nearly complete, and the conclusions were startling. She presented her findings to the Leadership Council in a secure briefing room. The Senate civilizations are old, she began. The newest member has been spacefaring for over 4,000 years. The oldest for nearly 50,000 years. In all that time, none of them have faced an existential threat. They don't understand fear the way we do. How is that possible? Someone asked. Every species must have struggled at some point. They did, but it was so long ago that it's become mythology rather than memory. They've spent millennia as the dominant powers in their regions. They view warfare as a tool for controlling lesser civilizations, not as a threat to their survival. And humanity? We're different. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. Nuclear weapons, climate change, pandemics. We know what it means to face extinction. We know fear, but more importantly, we know how to survive despite fear. That's our advantage. Yoon-ji pulled up a comparison chart. The Senate sees our weapons and thinks we're dangerous. But they build weapons for conquest. We built weapons for survival. That's why our technology developed differently. We didn't make bigger guns. We made more efficient shields, faster engines, better escape systems. We designed everything assuming we might need to run away or defend ourselves against something stronger. So, what does that mean for Project Witness? President Nam asked. It means when we show them what we've really been doing, they won't understand it at first. They'll look for the threat, the weapon, the danger. It'll take them time to realize we've already moved beyond that mindset, and that confusion is what we need. With 1 cycle remaining, Ambassador Jun-ho Kim received his invitation to the formal ceremony. The Senate would officially welcome humanity as a protected junior member of galactic civilization. It would be broadcast across known space. Billions would watch humanity formally accept their place at the bottom of the galactic hierarchy. Jun-ho read the invitation and smiled. The Senate had no idea what was about to happen. He met with Min-ho Lee aboard the Resilience. The ship now looked like a stripped shell from the outside, but inside, it was more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. Are you ready for this? Junyo asked. I've been practicing the jump coordinates for weeks, Min-ho replied. We'll hit the target location exactly. The Senate's sensors won't detect us until we want them to. And if something goes wrong, then we'll have proven quantum drive technology works even better than we thought, and we'll deal with the consequences. But nothing's going to go wrong. Subin's team has checked everything twice. Subin Kang appeared from the engineering section, wiping her hands on a cloth. 3 times, actually. The quantum drive is ready. The communication systems are ready. All we need is the go signal. The final cycle passed quickly. Earth sent encrypted messages to all colonies and ships. Project Witness enters final phase. Prepare for revelation. On the day of the ceremony, the Senate's grand auditorium filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Thousands of dignitaries, millions watching remotely. The human delegation arrived as scheduled. Junyo Kim wore his formal diplomatic attire. He looked every bit the part of a resigned ambassador accepting defeat. Thelm greeted him with something that might have been warmth. Today marks a new beginning for your species, Ambassador. You will have the protection and guidance of the Senate. In time, you'll thank us for this intervention. I'm sure we will, Junho replied with a smile. He took the stage at the appointed time. The prepared speech was in his pocket. The words of gratitude and acceptance that the Senate expected to hear. But Junho had no intention of reading that speech. Instead, he looked out at the assembled civilizations and said, "Honored members of the Galactic Consular Senate, we thank you for your concern regarding our species' capacity for violence. You are correct. Humanity is dangerous, but perhaps not in the way you imagine." The lights in the auditorium dimmed. Holographic displays activated all around the chamber, and Project Witness began. The holographic displays came alive throughout the grand auditorium. Images filled the air above the assembled representatives. Commanding voice Thelm started to stand, confusion crossing his features. But Junho Kim raised a hand calmly. "Please allow us 3 hours of your time. After all, you've had our attention for 6 cycles. Surely you can spare us this small courtesy." The displays shifted. The first image showed Earth from space. Old Earth from before humans reached the stars. A blue and green world covered in clouds. Then the image changed, showing the same planet but different. Brown patches where green had been. Gray smog over cities. Ice caps smaller than before. "This was our world 200 years ago," Junho's voice carried through the chamber. "We nearly destroyed it. Our technology advanced faster than our wisdom. We poisoned our air, warmed our oceans, and almost made our planet unlivable. Many species would have perished. Some of you might have abandoned such a world and moved elsewhere." The image changed again, showing Earth as it was now. The green had returned. The ice caps were rebuilding. Cities gleamed with clean energy systems. We didn't abandon it. We fixed it. It took us 80 years, but we healed our own world. We learned how to undo the damage we'd caused. And then we looked at Mars. The display shifted to show Mars. The red planet appeared as it had been, cold and dead and empty. Then time-lapse images began, tiny at first, then growing. Green patches appeared at the poles. Water began to flow in ancient riverbeds. The atmosphere thickened. Mars was dead for billions of years. We brought it back to life in 80 years, not through weapons. Through understanding of atmospheric science, genetic engineering, and determination. We didn't terraform Mars because we needed another world. We did it because we wanted to prove we could create instead of destroy. Several Senate representatives were leaning forward now, their earlier irritation shifting to curiosity. This wasn't what they expected. "You asked us to disarm because you feared our weapons. Let me show you what we were really building while you watched our warships." The displays exploded with data. Schematics, construction records, and live feeds appeared all around the chamber. Engineer Subin Kang's work became visible to the entire galaxy. "While you counted our military vessels, we built 3,000 autonomous construction platforms across our territory. They don't carry weapons. They build habitats, research stations, and communication networks. We've constructed more civilian infrastructure in 6 cycles than the previous 6 years." "This is deception," Thelm's voice boomed. "You hid your true activities." "We answered every question you asked," Junho replied calmly. "You asked about warships. We showed you warships. You never asked about construction platforms, research facilities, or civilian technology. You assumed military power was all that mattered?" The displays changed again, this time showing the quantum communication network that now connected all human space. Instant communication across light years without relays or delays. "Your civilizations use beacon networks for faster-than-light communication. They're vulnerable to disruption and require infrastructure maintenance. Our quantum communication system needs no beacons. It cannot be jammed or intercepted. We developed it not for war, but because we got tired of waiting weeks for messages from our colonies." A representative from the Luminar Accord, one of the civilizations that had abstained from the disarmament vote, spoke up. "That technology should be impossible. Quantum entanglement over such distances would require power systems that we developed 3 years ago," Junho finished. "We didn't announce it because we were still perfecting it." "Also?" No one asked. The displays shifted dramatically. The EDS Resilience appeared, but not in orbit where it was supposed to be waiting for decommission. The ship hung in space at the very edge of the Senate's observation grid, over 300 light-years from where it should have been. Captain Minho Lee's image appeared next to his ship. "Greetings from the edge of charted space. We left Earth orbit 6 minutes ago. We traveled 300 light-years in 6 minutes using our quantum drive system. Unlike your faster-than-light drives, we don't need navigation beacons or mapped jump points. We can go anywhere. Chaos erupted in the auditorium. Representatives were standing, shouting questions, demanding explanations. Thelm looked like he might explode with rage. This is impossible. You said your ship was being decommissioned. It was, Junho said simply. We removed all weapon systems just as you required. The quantum drive isn't a weapon. It's a propulsion system. You never said we couldn't upgrade our engines. Director Doyen Choi's face appeared in the displays. He stood in a control center somewhere on Earth. While we decommissioned our warships, we expanded our defensive network. Every satellite, every monitoring station, every early warning system. We now have complete awareness of everything happening within 100 light years of Earth. Not through weapons, but through sensors and intelligence. We also backed up our entire civilization, Doyen continued. Every piece of human knowledge, art, culture, and genetic information is stored in quantum-secured facilities beneath Luna. Even if Earth itself was destroyed, everything that makes us human would survive. Not because we're planning for war, but because we've learned that survival requires preparation. Commander Hyan Yu appeared from Mars. You thought our strength was in our warships. You made us dismantle them. But our real strength was always in our infrastructure, our technology, and our refusal to give up. You can destroy our ships, but you can't destroy our knowledge. You can't destroy our ability to innovate. The displays showed more. The Ark Protocol, humanity's program to preserve endangered species from Earth and other worlds. The medical advances that had extended human lifespans by 30 years in just 2 generations. The fusion power systems that now provided unlimited clean energy to every human settlement. We're not showing you this to threaten you, Junho said quietly. We're showing you this because you need to understand what humanity is. You looked at us and saw weapons. You saw danger. You saw something that needed to be controlled. But we're not warriors by nature. We're survivors. We're problem solvers. We nearly destroyed ourselves and chose to become better instead. We faced extinction and chose to thrive. You gave us 6 cycles to disarm. We used that time to prove that our strength was never in our weapons. Specialist Unji Han's analysis appeared in the displays. Comparative data showed the technological advancement rates of different civilizations. The Senate species had been stable for millennia, their technology improving slowly and predictably. Humanity's curve was different, steep, accelerating. Your civilizations are ancient and powerful, Junho acknowledged. You've maintained order in the galaxy for thousands of years. But in that time, how much have you truly advanced? When was the last time any Senate civilization made a breakthrough discovery? When did you last innovate rather than iterate? The question hung in the air. Several representatives looked uncomfortable. We've been in space for barely 200 years. We've already matched or exceeded you in multiple fields. Not because we're better than you, but because we had to be. We're a young species in a galaxy full of civilizations that could crush us. We innovated because survival demanded it. You wanted us disarmed. We complied. 90% of our military vessels are gone, but we don't need them anymore. Our strength isn't in warships. It's in our infrastructure. It's in our technology. It's in our people who refuse to accept that something is impossible. Junho paused, letting his words sink in. The auditorium was silent now. Every eye was on him. We don't seek to threaten you. We don't want war. We don't want conquest. We just want to be treated as equals. And in the past 3 hours, we've proven that we already are equals. You can accept that, or you can keep trying to suppress us. But we'll keep growing either way. We'll keep innovating. We'll keep pushing forward. Because that's what humans do. You tried to disarm us. You succeeded. But you can't disarm ingenuity. You can't disarm determination. You can't disarm hope. And those are the only weapons we've ever truly needed. The displays faded. The lights in the auditorium slowly returned to normal. Junho stood at the center of it all, waiting for the response. The silence stretched for several long moments. Then commanding voice Thelm spoke, his voice strained. You deceived us. We complied with every requirement you set, Junho corrected. We just didn't limit ourselves to those requirements. You told us to disarm. You didn't tell us to stop growing. The Senate will need to discuss this, Thelm said finally. This changes everything. Yes, Junho agreed. It does. The Senate chamber erupted into chaos the moment the human delegation left. For the first time in 3,000 years, the carefully maintained order of galactic politics had been shattered. Representatives shouted at each other across the vast space. Ancient alliances were questioned. Long-held assumptions were challenged. Commanding voice Thelm stood at his platform trying to restore order. The humans have made fools of us all. They used our own decree against us. This cannot stand. But not everyone agreed. The representative from the Luminar Accord, a being of pure light named Prime Nexus, spoke with surprising passion. They followed our rules exactly. We told them to disarm. They disarmed. We never said they couldn't innovate. We never said they couldn't build. Perhaps the fools here are us, for thinking that taking away weapons would somehow limit a species' potential. They deceived us through omission, Thelm insisted, did they? Or did we simply not ask the right questions? Prime Nexus challenged. How many of us actually studied humanity? How many of us tried to understand what drives them? We looked at their warships and made assumptions. We were wrong. The Senate fractured into clear groups. The traditionalists, led by Thelm and the Valorian Empire, demanded immediate action against humanity. The reformists, led by Prime Nexus, saw opportunity rather than threat. The pragmatists from the Netheran Dominion remained silent, observing and calculating. The isolationists from the Corthan Collective simply wanted distance from the entire situation. Back in human space, the reaction was different. In the command center on Earth, President Jiyung Nam watched the Senate feeds with satisfaction. It's working. They're fighting among themselves instead of uniting against us. Admiral Hana Park wasn't as optimistic. We showed our hand. Every civilization now knows exactly what we're capable of. That makes us a target. We were already a target, Director Doyen Choi reminded her. They tried to disarm us. At least now they know we're not helpless. Across human colonies and stations, celebrations broke out. People had watched the demonstration live. They'd seen their ambassador stand before the galaxy's most powerful civilizations and prove that humanity couldn't be pushed around. Pride swelled through human space, but not everyone celebrated. Captain Minho Lee stood on the bridge of the Resilience, now openly operational and no longer pretending to be decommissioned. His crew worked around him, monitoring the reactions from across the galaxy. Sir, we're picking up encrypted communications between several Senate civilizations. They're discussing us. Good or bad? Minho asked. Can't tell yet. But there's a lot of it. We definitely got their attention. On Mars, Commander Hyan Yu received an alert. Ships were moving in the outer system. A lot of ships. Identify them, she ordered. Valorian Empire Fleet Commander. 30 vessels. They're not approaching Mars directly, just taking up position at the edge of our space. Hyan immediately contacted Earth. We have Valorian ships positioning at our border. It looks like intimidation, not invasion, but we should be ready. Admiral Hana Park mobilized what remained of humanity's military. It wasn't much, only 10% of their former fleet, but those ships moved into defensive positions around key colonies. The message was clear. Humanity might have reduced its military, but it could still defend itself. Commanding voice Thelm didn't send the fleet to threaten. He sent it to test. He wanted to see how humanity would respond. Would they panic? Would they show aggression? Would they make a mistake he could use to justify stronger action? Instead, humanity did something unexpected. They ignored it. Ambassador Junho Kim requested a private meeting with Thelm. The Valorian agreed, curious about what the human wanted. They met in a neutral space station between their territories. Your fleet is making my people nervous, Junho said calmly. Perhaps they should be nervous, Thelm replied. You embarrassed the Senate. You made us look foolish in front of the entire galaxy. We followed your rules. If that made you look foolish, perhaps you should reconsider your rules. Thelm's expression hardened. Do not lecture me, human. My civilization was building warp drives when your ancestors were still in caves. And yet we're having this conversation as equals, Junho noted. That should tell you something. What happened next in that meeting remained classified. Neither side would discuss it publicly. But the results spoke clearly. Within 48 hours, the Valorian fleet withdrew from human space. Thelm recalled his ships and issued a statement saying the Senate needed time to reassess humanity's status in galactic affairs. Later, President Nam asked Junho what he'd said in that meeting. I showed him projections, Junho explained. In 50 years, at our current growth rate, we'll have thousands of ships with quantum drives. In 100 years, our infrastructure will span 500 light years. I didn't threaten him. I just showed him the math. We're not trying to surpass the Valorian Empire. We don't need to. We'll simply make them irrelevant if they don't adapt. And he accepted that. He's not stupid. He sees what we see. The galaxy is changing. The Senate's old ways of controlling younger civilizations won't work on us. He can either fight that reality and lose, or he can adapt and find a way to work with us. I offered him partnership, shared technology, joint exploration. A galaxy where civilizations compete through achievement, not suppression. Meanwhile, engineer Subin Kang made a troubling discovery. While analyzing data from the demonstration, she found something strange in the quantum communications logs. During those 3 hours when humanity broadcast to the galaxy, something else had been listening. Something that piggybacked on their quantum signals and used them as a relay to observe. She brought it to Director Doyen Choi immediately. This signal came from outside Senate space. Way outside, from a region they call the Dark Beyond. Doyen studied the data carefully. Could it be a sensor echo? Random quantum fluctuation? I thought so at first. But look at the pattern. It's too organized. Something intelligent was watching our demonstration, something we don't know about. And now it knows about us, Doyen concluded grimly. We announced ourselves to the known galaxy, but we might have announced ourselves to something unknown. The discovery remained classified for now. Only the highest levels of human leadership knew. They had enough to deal with regarding the Senate. They didn't need to add unknown observers to the mix. Not yet. Captain Taewon Shin returned from another deep space mission with more concerning news. His reconnaissance had detected faint signals from several younger civilizations. They weren't Senate members, just protected species under the supervision of older civilizations. And they were all increasing their research programs, testing new technologies, pushing boundaries they'd previously accepted. We inspired them, Taewon reported. They watched us stand up to the Senate. Now they're wondering why they can't do the same. Is that good or bad? Someone asked. Both, Doyen said. It's good because it means the Senate can't maintain its control structure. It's bad because if multiple civilizations start pushing back at once, there could be instability, maybe even conflict. Specialist Yoonji Han provided psychological analysis of the Senate's current state. They're experiencing cognitive dissonance. Their entire identity is built on being superior to younger species. We just proved they're not. Some, like the Luminar Accord, are handling it well. Others, like the Valorians, are struggling. The worst case is that hardliners could unite and try to make an example of us to reassert their authority. Can we defend against that? President Nam asked. Admiral Hana Park was honest. Against 1 or 2 Senate civilizations, yes. Against all of them together, no. But I don't think they'll unite. We've divided them too effectively, and starting a war against us now would prove our point that they rely on force rather than merit. After weeks of debate, the Senate announced their decision. They created a new category, independent associate status. Humanity would have a voice in Senate matters but not a voting position. They would be free to develop without interference, but expected to follow basic galactic laws. They would be neither full members nor enemies. It satisfied no one completely, which meant it was probably the best compromise possible. But the story wasn't over. The signal Subin Kang had detected continued. Faint, distant but persistent, something out in the dark beyond was still watching, and humanity was about to decide what to do about it. 6 months had passed since humanity's demonstration before the Senate. Earth's orbital space looked completely different now. Where military installations once dominated, massive civilian shipyards stretched for kilometers. Construction platforms assembled exploration vessels, research ships, and colony transports. The shift was visible for anyone to see. Humanity had moved beyond defensive thinking. Captain Minho Lee stood on the bridge of the EDS Resilience, but he wasn't alone. 12 representatives from younger civilizations filled the observation deck. These weren't Senate members. They were protected species who had watched humanity's stand and wanted to learn. The meeting was unofficial. Some might even call it controversial. But it was happening. Among the visitors was a delegation from the Silaran people. Their homeworld was slowly dying, its atmosphere deteriorating. Their Senate protector provided minimal aid, just enough to keep them dependent but not enough to truly solve the problem. The Silaran representative, a small being with large eyes and gray skin, approached Engineer Subin Kang nervously. "We watched your demonstration," the Silaran said. "You showed how you healed your own world and brought Mars to life. Could you teach us? Could we save our homeworld too? Subin didn't hesitate. Yes, we'll share everything we know. No species should die because someone decided knowledge should be restricted. That moment defined humanity's new role. Not conquerors, not supplicants. Teachers and partners, the Senate noticed, of course. The traditionalist faction, still led by Commanding Voice Thelm, called an emergency session. The humans are interfering with protected species. They're spreading their technology without authorization. This violates the spirit of their independent associate status. But the reformists, led by Prime Nexus of the Luminar Accord, challenged that view. Protected from what? From knowledge? From advancement? Perhaps it's time we questioned whether our protection has become oppression. The debate that followed was the most heated the Senate had experienced in centuries. Fundamental questions about galactic governance emerged. Why were younger civilizations kept dependent? Why was technology sharing restricted? Who decided which species deserved advancement? Surprisingly, Commanding Voice Thelm became an unlikely voice of change. His private meeting with Ambassador Junho Kim had affected him more than anyone realized. Perhaps, Thelm said slowly, humanity's disruption is the evolution we needed. Our civilizations grew comfortable maintaining order. We forgot that progress requires change, maybe even chaos. Not everyone agreed. 3 Senate civilizations formed a coalition demanding stricter controls on humanity. They wanted technology restrictions, travel limitations, and severe penalties for interference with protected species. But they couldn't get enough support. The Senate was changing and they couldn't stop it. Back on Earth, Director Doyen Choi called an emergency meeting in a secure facility deep underground. He presented the findings about the mysterious signal to Earth's entire leadership council. The holographic display showed data from the quantum communications during humanity's demonstration. Something was watching us, Doyen explained. It used our quantum transmission as a relay to observe. The signal came from a region called the Dark Beyond, unexplored space beyond the galactic rim. The Senate considers it too dangerous or too resource-intensive to investigate. Could it be automated? Some old probe or satellite? Someone asked. Possible but unlikely. The signal pattern suggests intelligence. Active observation, not passive recording. Commander Yan Yu from Mars brought up the tactical concern. If there's intelligent life out there and they just learned about us, what does that mean? Are they friendly? Hostile? Indifferent? We don't know, Doyen admitted. But we announced ourselves to the known galaxy. We might have also announced ourselves to something unknown. President Ji Yong-nam posed the critical question. Do we share this with the Senate? The debate that followed revealed divided opinions. Some argued for transparency. Building trust with the Senate required honesty, especially about potential threats. Others argued for secrecy. The Senate might use this to justify restricting human expansion, claiming it was for galactic safety. Specialist Yoonji Han offered a third option. We investigate first. We take the resilience and explore the source of that signal. Then we share what we find. We lead the response, not follow it. That's consistent with how we've operated so far. The council voted. The proposal passed by a narrow margin. Captain Minho Lee received his orders the next day. You want me to take my ship outside mapped space? Into a region even the Senate won't explore. Admiral Hana Park met with him privately. You're carrying humanity's future with you. If something's out there, your first contact will define our relationship with it. Remember what we taught the Senate. Strength isn't in weapons, it's in who we choose to be. And if whatever's out there is hostile, then we'll deal with it, together, but we won't assume hostility. We'll approach with open minds and extended hands. That's what makes us different. The Resilience prepared for departure over the following weeks. Engineer Subin Kang installed final systems, including a quantum communication link that would maintain contact with Earth regardless of distance. We're going into darkness, she told Minho, but we'll never be alone. Ambassador Junho Kim addressed the Senate one final time before the mission launched. He announced humanity's intention to explore beyond known space and invited any civilization to join them. 6 months ago, you tried to disarm us because you feared our weapons. We showed you we had already moved beyond them. Today we move beyond fear itself. The galaxy isn't a fortress to be defended, it's a frontier to be explored. We're going into the unknown, not because we're fearless. We know fear intimately, but we've learned that standing still is the only guaranteed way to fail. Our species nearly destroyed itself, then rebuilt, then reached the stars. We won't stop now because stopping means dying. The reactions varied. The Luminar Accord announced they would send a ship to join the expedition. The Valorian Empire claimed humanity was being reckless but quietly increased their own deep space observation programs. The Netheran Dominion, those perpetual observers, did something unexpected. They sent Director Doyen Choi a private message containing classified data. They detected similar signals from the dark beyond for years but kept them secret. 3 younger civilizations, inspired by humanity's example, applied for independent associate status with the Senate. The application process, which previously didn't exist, had to be created because of humanity. The galaxy was changing in real time. Launch day arrived. The EDS Resilience sat in orbit above Earth, fueled and ready. The crew had been carefully selected. Scientists, engineers, diplomats, and yes, some military personnel. Not for conquest, but for protection if needed. President Ji Young-nam addressed not just Earth, but all listening civilizations. The speech was broadcast across human space, across Senate territories, across the known galaxy. Millions watched. The Senate tried to disarm us. They succeeded. We have fewer weapons now than we did a year ago. But they gave us something more valuable than ships or guns. They gave us a reason to prove what we truly are. We're explorers. We're survivors. We're builders who turn obstacles into opportunities. We're a species that looked at an impossible situation and found a way through it. That's our nature. That's our strength. The galaxy wanted us disarmed. They got their wish. But they can't disarm human spirit. They can't disarm curiosity. They can't disarm hope. They can't disarm the drive that took us from caves to colonies in just 10,000 years. And that's why, 6 months after we were told to know our place, we're heading into unknown space. Not to conquer. Not to dominate. But because someone has to take the first step. And humanity has never been afraid of going first. The Resilience's quantum drive activated. Energy built around the ship, space itself seeming to bend and fold. Then in a flash of light that was visible from Earth's surface, the ship disappeared from normal space. On the bridge, Captain Minho Lee watched the sensors adjust to their new location. They had jumped 300 light-years in seconds, arriving at the edge of explored space. Ahead lay the dark beyond. Behind them, the known galaxy continued watching. Course set for the signal source, the navigation officer reported. Engage quantum drive, Minho ordered. Let's see what's out there. The Resilience jumped again, heading into darkness. Back on Earth, Director Do-yoon Choi sat in his office at the Intelligence Service headquarters. The quantum link showed green. The Resilience was transmitting. They were still connected despite the distance. He opened a classified file on his computer. The label read Contingency Protocols. Inside were plans for multiple scenarios. What humanity would do if the Resilience found something hostile. Something friendly. Something incomprehensible. But there was a 4th protocol added just recently. The title made Doyen smile slightly. What to do if we find we're not the first disarmed species to refuse submission? Because the most human response to discovering you're not alone wasn't fear or aggression. It wasn't even curiosity. It was reaching out your hand and saying, you're not alone either. In orbit above Earth, construction continued on the next generation of ships. Not warships, not weapons platforms, but exploration vessels designed to follow where the Resilience led. Because if there was one thing humanity had proven to the galaxy, it was this. They didn't stop. They didn't give up. They didn't accept limits. The Senate tried to disarm them. They succeeded in taking the weapons but failed to understand what made humanity strong. And that failure had changed the galaxy forever. Somewhere in the dark beyond, the signal continued. Steady, patient, waiting, and humanity, as always, was heading straight toward it.